Ahlan wa sahlan fikum. Welcome back to another episode about Palestinian Arabic. Last time we finished talking about all the verb stuff, past tense, present tense, the imperative. Today we're going to talk about something that's pretty important, which is some of the prepositions to talk about location and whatnot. So prepositions in English, it's like in, at, to, about, all of these things, right? So in Arabic, the tricky part about Arabic is that those same prepositions exist in Arabic, but they're not always used for the same things. So today we're going to talk about the most important sort of preposition in Arabic, which is one that you will hear all the time, and I'll show you why. And this is the word fi. So the word fi means, from Fusha, as you might know, it means in, right? But in reality, it has a lot of different uses in Ammiya. So we're going to start talking about that today. So the first use of the word fi is the one that you already know, which is in, right? Or at. So if I want to say I'm in the house, I would say Ana fi al-bayt. Okay, so this is a pretty standard sentence. You might have already noticed that there is no verb to be here. As I mentioned in a previous video, the verb to be in Arabic is not used in the present tense. If you try to use it, it's going to have a future meaning, and if you use it in the past tense, of course, it means was, right? But in the present, you don't have to use it. So when I say just Ana fi al-bayt, it just means Ana, I, am, parentheses, fi al-bayt, in the house, right? Now, the one thing that I want to throw out there is that in Ammiya, fi in this use is used a little bit less often than it is in Fusha. Actually, it's pretty much replaceable with another preposition, which is be, which is just the letter bab, actually, with kasra. But in any case, it sounds pretty much the same, be. And usually it's combined with the word that comes after. So again, it's pretty much the same meaning as fi, but sometimes it's replaced with be. So I can say ana bil bayt. Do you see what I mean? Especially the fact that the B gets combined with the al. There are many cases where the B is referring to it's like replacing the word fi. So ana fi al bayt, ana bil bayt. They're both perfectly fine. I tend to use the B one a little bit more often, but I think that it just kind of depends on the person. I do think it's a little bit more common in Ammiya, but fi is absolutely perfectly fine, and it's very common as well, so there's no problem with that. The only thing is that because fi has a few more uses than B, I would say that it can be a little bit more ambiguous, but I think it's usually pretty clear by the whole sentence what use fi has in that sentence. Okay, the next thing that I want to mention about fi, though, because we're mainly focusing on that today, is that it can take a suffix, just like a lot of different words like kif, kifak, okay, when, wenak, where are you, right? So fi can also take these person prepositions, right? And it can seem a little bit weird, because something pretty straightforward is if I were to say something like fiha. Okay, so fiha means in, and then ha is like feminine, she, but it can also be it, feminine. So if I wanted to say sayyara, right, the car. Okay, so sayyara is feminine. So if I want to say in the car, okay, I can say fi as-sayyara. But if I don't want to say as-sayyara, I might say fiha. I mean, if it's known that we're talking about the car, right? Fiha would be in it. And that would be clearly, the ha is representing the car, which is feminine. So fiha is in it, feminine. Now I wanted to start with fiha because the male counterpart of that is a little bit, it can throw people off a little bit. Why? Because the male suffix in Arabic, as we know, it's just the letter H. But the problem with it is that in Fusha, it's actually pronounced as an H, but in Ammiya, it's so soft that really the way that it sounds, the H, is almost like just an extension of the vowel that comes before. So sometimes it's really not even noticeable. So of course it's noticeable if I say bayt, just house, and I say baytu. See, there's not an H sound, but it's more just like a long O sound. Baytu is his house. But actually, if I put the suffix of H onto fi, it's actually just pronounced fi. It's actually the same as just fi, essentially. I would say that maybe with the H it's a little bit longer, fi, but it's so subtle, really. So anyway, that's just something that you need to be aware of, that sometimes if I say the word fi, it can either be fi or it can be fi. In any case, I mean, it doesn't really matter that much, except like when you are reading it, you should know that if there's an H, it means that you're saying inside of it, right? You're not just saying fi, like in. So sorry if that's a little bit confusing, but again, what's important is that you have fi by itself, just means in, and then if you add a suffix, that means in it, or, you know, male or female. Now the thing is though, that because fi has other uses as a preposition with particular verbs, you can actually add suffixes that would seem kind of weird to use just by themselves. So if I said, for example, fiik, okay, in you, right? I mean, I guess you could say that, but it seems kind of odd, right? Well, not necessarily, because there are some verbs that take fi as a preposition just necessarily. So if I say, for example, Ana بفكر, okay, so بفكر is I think, right? And if I want to say, weirdly enough, you know, if I want to say I'm thinking about you, okay, so about in English is what you would use. You wouldn't say in. But in Arabic, you actually use the preposition fi for I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking in you. I guess that's how you would technically translate it, but that's the preposition that's used. So again, if I want to say I'm thinking about you, here I would use fi and it would take the suffix for you, which is k. So I would say بفكر فيك. That means I'm thinking about you. Likewise, you could say أنت بتفكر في. So here the fi has two I's. And I mean, the sound is just fi, like just a long I guess. And that means you are thinking about me. And that's it. So it could be, you know, fi, fiik, fiki for feminine, fi, fiha, fina, fikum or fiku, and fihum. So that's all the different suffixes for fi, or you can just have it by itself, just meaning in. So just be aware again that even though it might seem odd if you translate it totally literally, just look at what verb is using fi, and that might just give you a sense of what other meaning it might be having in that particular sentence. So similarly, أنا بشتغل في المشروع, like I'm working on the project. Here, fi means on, weirdly enough. I mean, that's how you would translate it into English, because that's just the preposition that we use in English, on. But in Arabic, it's fi. But of course, there's more straightforward uses of fi with the meaning of in. So here's I just gave you 3 examples of the sort of translations that you could have for fi, but in Arabic the same word is used. And just remember again with the suffixes that they should indicate whatever you're thinking about or working on or entering into, right? Now, there's a second really totally separate use of fi that is not quite as a preposition. It's a very unique but very, very, very important usage of fi that is totally separate of what I've been talking about until now, kind of. And it is the use of the word fi to say there is. So how do I say in Arabic, again in Ammiya, how do I say like there is a table, or there is food in the fridge, or you know, something like that, there is. Well, in Arabic, I know that in Fusha it works similarly, but ultimately it's not the same. So the way that you do this in Ammiya, because in the present tense, there is no verb to be that is used, what happens is that the to be is implicit, and what you do to say there is you use the word fi before, and then I'll give you an example. Use the word fi to mean in it. Okay, so in it, parentheses, there is, which is invisible, and then you say what there is. Okay, so an example of this is, for example, fi akal بالثلاجة. So بالثلاجة means in, so be, here I use the be, in the fridge. So in the fridge, there is food. So what I technically said is in it, and then I didn't say there is food in the fridge. So again, the is missing because that's just not used in the present. But the fi here, some people translate this fi as just meaning there is, like point blank, but it's not quite like that, because what it's really saying is that in the fridge, right, the fi here is actually referring to the fridge or whatever, you know, the food is inside. And even though technically the fridge is feminine, you still kind of just say fi. Sometimes this happens in Ammiya. Things don't exactly correspond to the gender, like you just use the male version no matter what the gender is of the thing that it's ultimately referring to. This is the same as if you have any familiarity with the word لأنه. لأنه means because. Technically the ha is for him, and if you are talking about something else you should use another suffix, but sometimes it's just kind of a set word, لأنه. You can just say it even though you're talking about myself or something like that. So similarly here, fi, you just use that set word. And by the way, I think a lot of Arabic speakers in Ammiya, they don't necessarily recognize that this is how the fi is functioning. So many people just write it as fi, just without the h. I like to write it with the h because that reminds you that how the word is functioning is not to say in, but rather in it there is blah blah blah. So actually the there is, which is like the crucial part here, is invisible. There has to be kind of something that's hinting at that, and that's what the fi does. A few more examples with the distinction. So if I want to say I'm in the restaurant, okay, أنا في المطعم. Okay, but if I want to say there are many people in the restaurant, I would say في كتير ناس بالمطعم. Okay, so here I think that the positioning of the word is also maybe a hint, because in the first one I said أنا في, so I am in, and then the word that comes next is what I am inside. So أنا في المطعم, or I could say أنا في, I guess you could say it that way because I'm in it. But if you use the word fi to begin the sentence, I think that's really what gives it away. If you say the word like at the beginning and then afterwards comes what there is, so fi كتير ناس, so it's not inside of many people, it's rather there is many people. So I think the positioning of the word is important, because if I had said كتير ناس في المطعم, that would just mean many people in the restaurant. It's not quite a complete sentence. But here the positioning is important. So I think that's maybe something that you should pay attention to if you see the word written down. Again, I would say that it would be a dead giveaway if it was fi with the h written down. But as I said, many people don't actually write it that way. Many people just write fi, like fi. So you're not necessarily going to notice like visually that difference. You kind of have to infer it. It can be kind of weird that this one word can have so many different uses, but it's a really, really crucial word. So I wanted to make a whole video just talking about this. And in any case, I'm here to help. If you if you have any questions, you can drop them in the comments, and I'll try to like give additional tips. This is kind of a little bit off the top of my head because someone made a comment in one of the videos actually asking about this, so I thought, I'll make a little bit of a video explaining. But since we're talking about prepositions and locations, I wanted to give you a few fun words. This is really just like a vocab list. As I said before, I have my spreadsheet with a bunch of verbs and stuff. It's in the video description, but it also has a list of a lot of these words that I'm going to give you now, but I still want to give them in a video just in case you just want to watch the video and don't want to go into Excel or whatever. And these words are some really, really basic location words that you'll use and hear a lot of the time. So these are words like up, down, all this stuff. Okay, so let's just go through them. So full, and notice that I'm saying it without the qaf because that's just the Ammiya pronunciation in especially Madani kind of accents. Anyway, this means both on and above and up. It really just depends on how you use it. Which I like that because it's a very versatile word. So if we were in a house or something and we're in the bottom floor and my friend is above and I ask, where is he? Okay, full. He's above, he's up there. Now if I want to say on top of something or above something else, the way that you use this word and all the other ones that I'm going to say in this list is you can use them in idafa constructions. So these are constructions where you just have two words. The first one is indefinite and the second one is definite. And basically what happens is that imagine like an invisible of in the middle if you were to translate that into English. So I'll just give you an example. If I wanted to say above the house or on top of the house, I would say فوق البيت. Okay, so here I just said above the house, right? There's an invisible of. You could translate that as on top of the house, right? Okay, so what's the opposite of فوق? تحت. So تحت means under or down or beneath, underneath. Again, very versatile word, has all these different meanings. So you can't really go too wrong, honestly. Anything that has to do with going down or below, it's taht. So for example, taht al-ard is underground, below the ground, you would say. So that's another one of these constructions where just by adding something definite after the word taht or fo or whatever, that just means, you know, underneath or above or whatever, that particular thing that is taking that preposition, I guess you would call it. Now then you have the word junb. So junb is next to. So this can also take suffixes. So if I wanted to say junbi, that means next to me. Junbak is next to you, right? So that's the word for next to or adjacent to or whatever. Again, very kind of versatile word. So you have fo, taht, junb, and now I want to give you two other opposites. So you have قدام, which means in front of. So قدام البيت. You could say في سيارة قدام البيت. So there is a car in front of the house. See, that's a useful sentence with both of the concepts that we've talked about today. So the opposite of قدام is wara. So wara is behind. And that's pretty much it. It's just the opposite of قدام. Okay, so now two last useful words are inside and outside. So inside is جوا. So جوا means inside, and it's not the only word for this. There's also داخل, but I recommend جوا because I think it's more عامية, definitely, because داخل, even in Fusha you can say this. So جوا is very عامية word, and it's very, very common. So جوا البيت, for example, inside of the house, or بالبيت, you know, in the house. Again, you can mix and match. I mean, you can use a few of these, but that's why, you know, I did want to discuss these in the video too, because they're all kind of related and they're used in like similar sort of contexts. So now outside is barra, and the more fusha word, slightly more fusha, would be kharij, and it comes from, and by the way, dakhil comes from dakhal, which means to enter, and kharij comes from kharaj, which means to exit. So that's where those words come from. But anyway, jua and barra are the sort of more ammiya words, and they mean jua inside, barra outside. So ana barra ubastannak, I'm outside and I'm waiting for you, for example. Again, you can use them in a lot of different contexts. They're very, very useful words. I highly recommend you write them down and you know, memorize them, or you know, start learning them, and experiment with the word fi. You know, try out a few different sentences. Maybe, I mean, you can comment them and I'll tell you like if they're right or wrong, or what else you could say. It is a little bit tricky with the fi having the meaning of being used as a preposition, but also to mean there is. That's just the main thing that I want you to take away from here. There's these dual meanings that are rather different, and it kind of depends on just the placement of the word. So anyway, just be aware of that, and I'll catch you next time.